cigarettes have a very distinct smell. If you're vaping, you just smell like banana nut cream or like whatever the hell you.
You smell like nut cream.
Yeah, you just want to say nut cream, I think.
That's what I have. Banana nut cream pie or whatever the fuck it is. Like
You're not making it better.
Does it have kind of like a chlorine type smell to it?
No, it's got kind of like a creamy smell to it.
In the winter, Gordo was using Snowball, but he thought that in this weather it wasn't good enough.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Tacoma FD. Tacoma FD has gone 36 episodes with 3 seasons so far on True TV. Today we're talking about episode 1, which is called On the Hot Seat, originally airing March 28th, 2019. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, Nick, Gordo, Berg, and Joe. What's going on, guys?
Heyo.
Pranks, pranky pranks, covert pranks.
So soft.
What is the soft thing? I want to talk about that.
I don't
Is
know.
this a...
It's a Tacoman accent. Duh.
I just figured it was a thing that they do that's...
Yeah, because I work with people from Washington State and nobody says that. To me, that's just what's his face, the wrestler.
Isn't that New York?
Oh, Enzo Amore.
Enzo Amore, yeah.
Soft.
If I had a dime for every time I enjoyed recording one of these podcasts with you assholes, I'd have 0 dimes, because you're all SAWFT, soft.
You'd have like 114 dimes or something like that now.
Like $14.
So yeah, Tacoma FD, I can't remember. Which one of you picked this one?
I did.
Any particular reason?
I always saw the advertisements, and I love the Broken Lizard guys. I never got to see it, so I figured this would be a good way to at least check it out. I've never seen it until now.
And has anyone watched this show up until now?
Yeah, I've seen all 3 seasons.
Nope.
To me, I think the issue is, I was telling my wife about it earlier, and I was like, we watched this week, this is what I thought about it, not to give my hand out. And she was like, oh, I've never heard of that. I was like, me neither, because it's a True TV original.
Yeah.
And no offense to this show, because I'm not going to say I did not enjoy it. I'm just going to say True TV originals maybe don't get as widespread as other shows.
Oh yeah, we've talked about that before and other things.
It streams weekly on HBO Max as well, but also now it's just Max because HBO is stupid.
I was going to say, there's so many, like, they all just, like, become, like, these glommed together things where I was like, I'm sure I own one streaming service where this is now streaming. Because everything's a monopoly now, and there's, like, 4 streamers total.
Well, we've said in the past too, if you look at a show like, Cobra Kai, right? Cobra Kai starts on YouTube Red or whatever it was, and nobody watched it because it was the only thing that they had to hang their hat on, and you're like, okay, but no one has this. Not that people don't have True TV, but it's not a channel that you are typically on already and going to flow into it, so you're not catching a lot of their advertising. So you take this show, put it on a different network or on a popular streaming site, then yeah, you're going to get more eyes on it. And whether or not the popularity rises is based on, of course, the show, and we'll get into how we feel about it in a little bit, but yeah, True TV is probably not your best avenue to get all that attention.
Well, they advertise the hell out of this show. This show, we see commercials for all the time and billboards.
And that's why I picked it. And I remember seeing a lot of commercials for it, and then it kind of fell off. Like, I haven't seen any advertisements, I'd say maybe in the past 6 months to a year.
I will say that True TV did break through the din a little bit, where Impractical Jokers is a huge show. So they have some reach, they can be like, hey, we're doing other stuff. I think the problem with the Cobra Kai was that, like, YouTube is everything. Like, at least if you go to a HBO Max or whatever, right, they're like, we've got 50,000 titles streaming. That's hard to, like, at least you can figure out an algorithm for that. How many videos are on YouTube where it's like, oh, did you just watch a mukbang video of somebody eating Taco Bell? You want to watch some firefighter comedy? Like, that's never going to work.
But not enough people were paying for the premium stuff because they didn't have much other than that show to hang their hat on. So
right. And no ads.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, I know some people who have pulled the trigger on the YouTube Red or whatever. Do you know where they really get you? Where I keep thinking about it. I don't know if you ever do this before, but like you're watching a YouTube video, or like maybe it's an album you want to listen to that isn't on a streaming service, but it's on YouTube, and it's in your back pocket as you walk around, and then your phone jostles and it goes out of that window, or your phone goes dark. It just stops it. So like YouTube Red, they're like, hey, you can use this like any other app. We'll keep playing.
It'll play the music,
whatever you can do. So I'm like, man, that might be worth like $4 for like the couple hours a week where I'm like, I want to listen or watch this thing without it doing whatever.
We recently cut the cable and we have like the Hulu live TV and stuff, but I heard that YouTube's live TV is pretty good as well.
I have the YouTube live TV, and it's like if you're just like you don't have anything specific in mind you want to watch, you just kind of want to throw something on. There's like always something good on. It's like a full channel selection, and you can like sort it by movies that are playing or TV shows. So like you can sort your TV listing by like the genre, which is kind of cool. But it's really good for just like, just having something on. I've never gone and been like, oh, I need YouTube. Oh, actually, live YouTube TV is good for basketball.
For sports, right?
They do football too,
Just
right?
basketball that I've noticed.
They do football now, I think.
Yeah, I thought football was part of, at least it's part of next year's
you might be right,
season.
yeah. But yeah, no, it's pretty decent. I don't know how much it costs. It's not mine. I don't pay for it. You'd really have to use it often, I think, to justify the price point, because I think it's like $70.
That's about what Hulu is too for the live version.
You see, I have Sling and it's half that.
I was gonna say I have Sling as well, and I think I have the blue and the orange, and it's like $55 a month.
I think I just have orange and it's 40 because I literally only watch the news on it, and I have it for like wrestling and Vice TV for other wrestling show. So for $40 a month to have all of that, because I watch the news every morning when I wake up. That said, though, I probably could like find a different way to watch the wrestling stuff and just get the news app and pay like $8 a month. So maybe I'm not doing it right either.
I enjoy Ancient Aliens.
All right.
Which is on that.
That's all on Hulu too, though, because I've been watching all of the blanks that built America shows in the past few weeks. Have you guys ever seen those before? Where it's like, the food that built America, like Erstoff Hershey decided that his candy should have a chocolate, and there's like cuts to a reenactment of people being like, it'll never travel, it'll melt in their mouth. It's so fucking stupid, and there's so many of them about every single thing that's ever happened. I watched one the other day about people making bridges, and I was enthralled by the reenactments being so bad. It's like the greatest hour a night you can spend watching TV.
So real quick, I just want to remind everyone to go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to everywhere to listen to us, our social medias, specifically S1E1pod on Twitter and Instagram. It's probably where we're the most active. But just give us follows, hit that up, go to S1E1pod.com. So, it was mentioned earlier, this show is a product of like the Broken Lizard crew. Two of them in particular, though, like Kevin Heffernan, who played like Farva in Super Troopers. He co-wrote with, what's his name? Steve Lemme? Is it?
I think it's just Lemme.
Lemme?
Yeah, I can't know it's Lem or Lemmy, but if I was him, I would clearly go by Lemmy.
Of
Like
course.
if you get life hands you lemons, make fucking
Lemmy.
Make
loud
Lem.
Lemmy bastard stew.
But yeah, the two of them who you know from all of the Broken Lizard movies, they kind of have like a side thing going. Like I think they tour and do stand up together, but they co-created and wrote this episode in particular. Kevin Heffernan also directed this episode. Yeah, the Broken Lizard crew, I think, Super Troopers blew them up, and then they've done so many movies since.
I would argue that Beer Fest blew them up. We all loved Super Troopers, but it was a cult it had a cult following more than anything, and then Beer Fest is what brought it to prominence.
I agree. I think Beer Fest was a really wide movie.
Yeah.
Like it opened big, right? But like Super Troopers was one of those movies that like a lot like Anchorman, where everybody had a DVD of it because it was so funny.
So quotable.
Before we were quoted like 13 lines that are not even like big lines of the movie, Like you put it on, I was like, good wax job, Rook. Like that's not like a major laughing point of the movie,
Have they ever had a proper studio movie? Because I feel like, I know they did it with Super Troopers and Super Troopers 2. I can't remember about Beer Fest and what's the Penal
Get Club Dread.
Yeah, Club Dread.
Club Dread, yeah.
But I know with Super Troopers 2, they essentially had to fund it themselves. Like they had to crowdsource.
Yeah, and it got funded in a day, like in hours. They funded that.
You can also tell it was crowdfunded, but
do you guys remember some of the perks they had? Like there were points where they're like, hey, if you want to give us like 50 grand for this movie, we'll give you a Super Troopers cop car. Like that
Yeah.
was how wild they were going with the perks, and it just kept going up and up and up, and they just kept hitting every mark. Good
And I
for
was
them.
curious, like, is that a choice of theirs, or do they not like? Are they like fuck the networks? Like we want to do it our way?
I remember them being on a couple podcasts talking about it, and I can't remember all the specifics behind it. But yeah, essentially, when you fund it and you're paying for everything on your own, you're going to do it your way. You own it. It's like, and then you just find someone to distribute it after the fact. So, a lot of the controls in your hand when you do that. So, and just testing that out, right? Like all the stress is gone. Like you've paid for it through fans. So,
I think the hard part now, though, is that wasn't that long ago. It was probably 8 years ago, maybe at the most, or whatever. But we were still at a point where it was like, hey, if you donate $20 to this, we'll send you a DVD. And $20 isn't that much to lose. So you get like 100,000 people giving you $20. Like, holy shit, we just made a ton of money.
Yeah.
And making DVDs is super cheap. But now that's like less of a.
yeah, that incentive's down.
Right. But also easier now, too, probably to get somebody like Hulu to be like, just make it. We'll be hands off as long as we can have exclusive distribution,
You know what's strange? It's like there are exceptions, obviously, but you don't really see any of them pop up in other stuff. They only really do their own
You
thing.
see Jay Chandrasekhar there pop up every now and again.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't really see any of the other ones.
Yeah, I remember watching Jackass 2, was it? When he pops up in Jackass 2,
Yeah,
you go,
yeah.
Yeah,
so,
he's
yeah.
you're like,
cab
wait,
driver,
what?
right?
Yeah, like, what's he doing here?
Kevin Heffernan, though, it's no fault of his, but like even in my notes, anytime I'm referring to him,
Right,
it says
Farva.
Farva.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those characters that's just so forever iconic in your brain where you're like, this show's great. You're very funny in this new character, but you're also always going to be Farva.
Never shit a shitter.
Yeah, I guess we can get right into the episode itself. And the show starts, it's raining outside. We see this exterior shot of Tacoma Fire Department vehicle parked in a lot. And we cut inside and we see the chief and captain of this fire, what are they called? A fire what? Is it like a police
Department?
squad? But I'm saying like, you say police squad, like what would it, is it fire
Department.
just fire department?
Your fire department, and then you have different shifts.
So we have the chief and the captain. They're inside just doing the saltine challenge to pass the time. And Eddie, who's the captain, goes first, and he can't. So the idea is you're supposed to eat 6 saltines within a minute and be able to whistle. So
Right.
I always thought the saltine challenge was to whistle while they were in your mouth. But I feel like what they did, because Terry went next, he ate everything really quick and then whistled.
Yeah, I feel like I could have whistled if everything was swallowed, even if I had like squirrel mouth.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I believe the way the challenge was done in the show is as long as you can eat it within the minute and have time to whistle after, you're good. Challenge being you can't eat them within the 1 minute because of how much it dries your mouth out.
Right. I also think the other way too is the fun of that is like your A gonna choke and spit it all over the people
Oh,
you're
yeah.
with. Like that's the big fun of that.
I wanted to ask you guys, in this scene, I don't think they ever actually say his name. I could be wrong. I might have missed it. But did you guys notice Steve Lemme's name on his jacket?
No.
No, I know his name's Eddie, but I didn't look at his jacket.
His last name is Penisi. Penisi.
Yeah, it's penis.
Eddie Panisi.
And it's right on his thing. And I had to double take. I'm like, what is that? But they never mention that his last name is basically penis. And I thought they would have at least once.
So no, I didn't catch that. But they go back when Terry successfully does the challenge. He says that it's because he has a wet mouth, which leads to this conversation where Eddie's saying, well, saliva is what allows you to taste food. So for someone with a wet mouth, food must taste amazing. And goes on to ask him, like, with all due respect, are people with wet mouths more likely to be plus size because food tastes better? So I guess is a fair question, right?
Makes sense,
If
yeah.
food tastes better
Kind
to
of a
you.
scientific ask.
Yeah. Like imagine having no ability to taste but still being fat. Like what would he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the experience of that when I had COVID.
I had that. The only thing I could taste was Coca-Cola, weirdly.
I was nothing. The first time I had nothing at all for a few days.
Never got the Rona. Dabbed on it.
Still going. I just heard about somebody getting it the other day for the first time, and they got something called COVID ear. So if anybody's going to get it and get a symptom they shouldn't get, Gordo, it is you, and it is COVID ear.
That would be really bad.
Yeah.
Actually.
So maybe start licking some light posts or something.
I got it for the first time this past Christmas, like 6 months ago. I did lose my flavor or my taste and smell I still tasted the same myself. But I was so depressed during that because I know 2 people who didn't get their senses back in full, like ever. And I am so terrified of that happening. Like, I'd be suicidal, I think, if I couldn't taste food. It's just such a big part of my day. Like, sometimes it's just like, all right, I'm going to enjoy some food.
The first time I got COVID, I remember thinking, like, kind of ties into this conversation that they're having. When I lost my taste, I'm like, man, it sucks that I can't taste, but if this lasts a little while, like, I might be able to lose some weight pretty easy if I can't.
Like, I'm only eating cabbage for a month.
Yeah, like, I'm just eating.
Yeah.
If you're literally just eating to survive, then yeah, it's really easy to keep the calories down.
Even when I couldn't taste anything, I turned down all vegetables.
You're a texture guy, right? Is it a texture
Yeah.
thing with you?
Yeah.
I don't like the texture of health.
Too life-giving.
Yeah, no, I'm always afraid that whenever I get the poops, I get the poopy COVID.
I will say, as somebody with a bad stomach, when I had it, that was not an issue for me, knock on wood.
Wait, what's the poopy COVID?
There's like a bunch of people who get really bad gastrointestinal.
I had a pretty rough stomach when I had
Oh,
it.
I have poopy COVID all the time then.
Ferg has really long COVID.
He has that long haul COVID. No, but it's like, I guess, a strain of COVID that just makes you shit a lot. And I've been
Oh.
calling it the poopy COVID.
But if you get that and you get the no taste, you'll really lose weight because
Right.
that doesn't even matter at that point.
So in any event, this conversation gets broken up by a call they have on the radio, and they get sent over somewhere where there's an alpaca that's stuck in a swing set. Not like it's more like when you have like the little clubhouse built into the swing set. It's like it's on the top level of that.
I forget what those are called. It's on like the tip
Like
of my
he
tongue.
like he climbed the slide.
Yeah, and nobody can get it down because of the amount of spit that this thing's giving out. And I don't know much about alpacas.
To be noted too that it's suddenly not raining anymore.
Yes, I was gonna note that
They do
because
this twice in the show.
yeah, I feel like it was just something they weren't paying good enough attention to. Whenever they're in the firehouse, it's raining, and whenever they go on a call, it's not raining anymore.
It's also the conceit of the show, though. The whole thing of the show is that they're bored as firefighters because Tacoma is one of the wettest cities in the entire country.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of fires because it's so wet all the time. So they get stuck doing weird stuff, right? But there are, like, in places like this, like, it's super rainy and then it's nice. Like, that's just how it is. It's almost like in Florida when it just rains for an hour and then it goes away.
The second they get there, he comments, well, at least the rain stopped.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
next scene, it's pouring again.
Yeah, so it is purposeful.
Pouring whenever they're at the firehouse. But yeah, so this alpaca, I don't know much about actual alpacas. So I figured the spit thing's real, but is it green slimy spit like that?
Probably not.
Are they being attacked by the Sultan?
It's very much the Sultan. Savio Vega.
Yes.
Or the Great Muda. Or the Great Kabuki. But there are 53,000 alpacas in the United States currently.
I was unaware of that.
So was I. That's not a stat. I just knew. I looked it up when I was watching the episode. I was like, how many are there? And there are alpaca farms in every single state of the country as well.
Wow.
Yeah, there's one in North Conway.
We always go to a sheep shearing festival in Waltham near us, and there's always an alpaca.
A sheep sharing?
Sheep shearing festival.
Shearing. Oh.
Shearing.
I was like, oh, I brought my sheep.
Sheep sharing. No, that's a different festival.
That's a
entirely.
southern.
So I feel like you've brought this up before in the show, but like what happens? You just sit there and watch it get
Pretty much, yeah. So there's a place there's a nonprofit group out of Waltham, Massachusetts, that have a whole bunch of sheep. And then every year they have to get shorn. So they have a festival on the grounds where like they have like vendors and like, Revolutionary War reenactors come and you can shoot archery, and they have dogs that do demonstrations, like sheepdogs that they do demonstrations of how
Do they
to...
shear the sheepdogs?
They don't shear the sheepdogs, but then you walk through and you can see people, and some do it in the old school way where like they have the hand clippers and they shear them, and then after they're done with the demonstration, they use electric shavers and they shave them, and then they make wool and so forth and so on.
I like that you go to this every year. Meanwhile, you couldn't fucking pay me to go to that.
It's actually a lot of fun. Next year, my wife really enjoys sheep. Like she likes sheep; it's her favorite animal, so we go every year.
She likes sheep, but she hates you.
What?
A ewe is a baby sheep.
EWE.
EWE.
Right? EUE.
A
Damn
ewe
it.
is a baby sheep, so she likes sheep, but she hates you.
Oh, Joe, that joke was just bad.
I'll give it to him. You can have it. You can have that one.
Like, mine would have landed if anybody but Jay knew what a ewe was, okay?
And then I spelt it wrong, which is terrible. So in any event, yeah, they're trying to get this alpaca down, and you're seeing everyone in the squad. It's a small fire department. There's basically 4 guys, or no, really 3 guys, and then the chief and the captain. It's just the 5 of them in total. The first one, Andy, you see, is like absolutely covered. It looks like he just got like a bucket of alpaca spit thrown on him. And then this other guy, Ike, goes up with a mask because he thinks he figured out like the key to avoid it with this mask on. And once he gets spit on, he's like, it's like cat shit and gasoline.
Sometimes I write like certain things so many times in an episode. Like sometimes I'm just like, fuck. Like I can't believe they keep saying, like when we had like a really like racist or weird show, I keep writing like my notes like, fuck, I can't believe they're doing this. This one, I literally was like, lol. I'm laughing so hard so many times at this. And this scene, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna be funny. They show the dude covered in green or whatever. But when he goes up with the mask on and starts spitting at him, I was like howling laughing at this. And then the cat shit and gasoline really put it over the edge for me.
The resolve of this ends up being that the chief has an idea and he runs up and he gets some of the saltines that, from earlier when they're doing the challenge, and he gives it to the alpaca because now it's drying up its mouth so it can't spit on them while they bring it down. Which I actually thought was really clever because these two things tie in so well, but you would have never saw that coming. So like this really random intro into this was just, I don't know, I really thought it was very clever how they brought that in together.
It was tied up well. I do like too, one of the guys goes up and he's like, I'm gonna try love, and one of the firefighters is like, she's not one of your divorcees. I also laughed so hard at that. There's something that makes me so happy about guys who just go after divorcees. I don't know why, that's so fun for me.
I feel like that's like an old TV trope. That was like an 80s TV trope.
Yeah, that's like the sleazy guy who's like 40 and single who lives down the hall. He's got one name only in the show, and he always goes after the divorced 45-year-old woman. AKA my future in 10 years.
It's always Greg.
Well, everybody's always Greg.
From there we get to the actual intro of the show, which is just like the whole squad walking in slow motion to Hot Blooded by Foreigner. And that's all it is.
I always appreciate a quick intro.
A quick intro, a good song.
Yeah.
Foreigner's got the hits, man. Foreigner's one of those bands like ELO that when you start thinking in your head about how many big songs they had, it just gets so big. You're like, oh, feels like the first time, Jukebox Hero. There's so many big Foreigner songs that are just on classic rock radio when we're kids our whole lives.
No, absolutely. I don't know. And again, for an intro like this, short and sweet, not much to it. Get a vibe. You already know it's a comedy show. So I like that they don't play it too comedically. They all have kind of a serious face as they're doing the slow motion walk. It just works.
Except Donkey Doug, who gives us a wave.
Yeah. We get back to the next scene, and it's raining again, and all the guys are hanging out in the station, everyone but the captain, or the chief, rather, I'm sorry. Eddie shows everyone a package that came in from the alpaca lady, and basically as a sign of gratitude, she gave them all $500 gift card, and then, random alpaca good. So they all have a few different items that they're looking at and
Did
touching.
Anybody else think that this was the weirdest path to take for incentive? I get the alpaca thing, the spit and them having to go to that call. But then they rode the alpaca thing the entire episode as the thing that they were winning.
It definitely fits with their brand of comedy, I think.
I guess, yeah. It's just so out of left field.
If I had to guess, there's a point in this where they call it the Al package.
They wrote the episode around that line.
Yes, I feel like they were drinking or in the writer's room and somebody said, oh, it's an alpaca. What if somebody sends us an Al package? And they all laughed for 5 minutes, got some Chinese food, and then came back the next day and were like, oh shit, we have to write an episode. Just go with that.
Did anybody else think that before they started this challenge that they sent them each $500? Because that's what I thought at first.
No, I think it was just a single.
Yeah, I think it was noted it was just the one $500.
Oh, okay.
It's the whole reason they're doing the challenge.
Yeah, they're competing to see who gets it.
But at first, when they said, oh, we got gift certificates.
I don't think there was enough time between when we find out and then to the resolve like there wasn't enough time for me to even come to any assumptions because it's by seconds really when you kind of elevate to what's going to go on with that gift card. And as mentioned before, they're all talking about how soft they are. They just so soft.
I like you doing it more than them.
Soft. I have one of the soft Snickers. Remember when Snickers was doing like the bars that had like slogans on them?
Oh, the SAWFT Enzo Amore. Yeah.
It was the Enzo Amore time, and I was like, I have to find one. So for like a month, every time we go to the grocery store, I'd look through all the Snickers, and I have one. And it's just been like slowly melting inside of its package on my shelf now for like, I don't know, 3 years.
That's a better experience than Nick had.
You eat one frozen Snickers bar, and it's like...
I'm sorry, what? Why I'm not remembering this.
Ferg, when we were in Old Orchard Beach one year, I went to the convenience store that was near our Airbnb, and I was like, oh, cool, because I love the Snickers ice cream bars. So I grabbed one, and I go back to the house, and it wasn't an ice cream bar. It was just a frozen fucking Snickers. I almost broke my jaw
What
on.
a cold Snickers.
Ferg thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
I thought you just assumed it would taste like the ice cream bar if you froze it.
No, I thought it was the ice cream bar.
That's also like a younger man's game, right? Like when I was a kid, I used to love frozen Charleston chews, or at least
same.
them in the freezer. And now I'm like, if I try to eat one of those, I will lose all of my back teeth. Like there's no way I can sustain this at almost 40.
Those are a dangerous candy bar to eat in its frozen state. It is like, yeah.
But it's so good frozen.
Yeah.
It's an old person candy.
No, it is not.
I just
don't
think it's
think
an
so.
old candy. Yeah, it's they never updated like the imagery and like all the graphic design, so it just still looks kind of old timey. But every candy bar, pretty much 100 years old at this
I
point.
mean, that's true too. If like it's a Malamo bar, like I guess it's an old person candy. I don't know, Sky Bar.
No, I just eat Kinder Buenos now, all right? I'm young and hip.
Well, in our lifetime, though, candy bars got fucking insane. Where they were like, "Hey, it's a Take 5. We put a pretzel. We put 7 candy bars." Like they just
Take 5's like the best candy bar.
Don't
though,
you
by the
dare
way.
shit on the Take 5.
look. I liked the Take 5 and the Break
Have
Fast. I really liked a lot.
We've definitely had this conversation, but it was like
Yeah, we definitely have. Yeah, we
probably
should not
2 years ago though. But yeah,
I was gonna say, what's your favorite candy bar?
we've definitely had the. But it's a Take 5. It's my favorite candy bar.
Okay.
Sam, I love a good Take
Caramello
Five.
bar.
Brooke, did you just say you were anti Take 5 though?
No, I love Take 5.
Oh, I didn't know how you
Don't-
responded. I
I
couldn't
said,
hear
don't
the
you
time.
dare shit on a Take 5 to him.
Oh, all right. You're telling me not to. I was like, no, I love Take 5.
Get the extra pretzel in there. I will say though, I mainly will eat Starburst if I'm having a candy.
Yeah, I think of them as different things.
Yeah, my mind went to chocolate.
Yeah, at that point, yeah, like to me, it's a chocolate only conversation.
And a chocolate only, I loved in a previous life a Milky Way.
If we're going away from chocolate, Sour Patch watermelons are my favorite.
Away from chocolate, I know you guys are gonna give me shit. I love hot tamales, one of my favorites. And I'm a big guy with like all like sour candy is like big on me.
If I go to like the Michaels or the random places that have lemon heads and they're like the giant box of 10,000 lemon heads, I will eat the whole thing in one night and I will wake up feeling
Gross.
so awful. But I will eat lemon heads all day.
You had brought up lemon heads in a prior episode, and then I sent some your way.
You sent me some, yeah, and they were all gone within about
Yeah.
25 minutes of me.
But then I
opening that
bought
package.
myself some also because I hadn't had them in I don't know 30 years, and I was like, oh, I forgot, and I was like, these are so sweet. Like the sugar, they have a lemony taste, but they're so much more sugary than you realize.
and they're gritty.
Yeah,
Like they're an immediate teeth brush after.
because of this $500 gift card, they decide like, what are we gonna do with it? And Eddie recommends that they have a tournament of champions to decide who gets it, which is like, it's a fun idea. But again, I mentioned there's only 5 people in this department. Like they could have all had $100 each.
Can we do an S1E1 tournament of champions?
I will tell you, I will do good at the first one because for years we have like a big tub that we had, like a big steel tub, and on super hot days we would fill it with like a bag of ice and water and put our feet in it. Because like it just sucks all the heat out of you and your feet. So I could do that for a long, long time.
Well, joke's on you. You already lost because you're not going to show up.
I can do it.
Via satellite.
Yeah, I can be via satellite.
Could be a recording. It has to be in person. I don't trust.
Yeah, that'll be something we'll have to plan outside the show and figure that out down the road. Terry walks in and asks what's going on. And when they kind of clue him in on this whole tournament situation, he's pretty much down for it right away. And they're starting off with the frostbite challenge, which you were just talking about before. And essentially what it is you get a giant bucket, fill it up with ice water, and everyone throws their arm in there, and we're going to see who can last the longest.
I lose these all the time.
I feel like I would do okay in this one, but who knows? All these to me feel like easy games, but it becomes an endurance test. So it's just you versus someone else. Because there's no time limit, it's just a matter of beating everyone else. So everyone else, if there's one person there who can go 2 hours, then you're in bad luck.
I like this because this is sort of the adult, not but the modern version of there are a bunch of episodes of sitcoms from the 70s of hey, at first, last person to stop dancing loses, or last person to take their hand off the car.
That's Happy Days, right? The car one?
Happy Days is the dancing one, I think, right? Or the car one.
I think it's the car one.
I think it's both.
I might be wrong.
It may be both, yeah. There might be a Full House dancing one, actually.
Saved by the Bell?
Community did it.
Definitely a Saved by the Bell one, I think.
This is also now just what Mr. Beast does to give people houses.
True.
Joe has no idea what I'm talking about. It's on the internet.
Oh, yes, I don't know then.
Basically, Mr. Beast has 80 billion followers and just makes such an absorbent amount of money every time he makes a video that now he can give away things like houses and cars all the time. And it's usually challenges of that nature.
And now we can tag him.
Yeah, Mr. Beast, if you would like to come on to S1E1 and...
Could you make it sound any more boring when you pitch it?
Or even better, if you want to give me a house or a car. That'd be great.
How about your good old cousin Gordo? They call me a cousin Beast.
For any of you listeners out there, you don't know that Gordo's last name is in fact Beast.
Gordo Beast.
But
Beauty and the Beast.
The funny thing, though, is his legal first name is Eality. So when it's written last name, comma, first name.
It made for a lot of fun at school when we were going through roll call. I think Gordo's his middle name. Eality Gordo Beast.
So we see everyone playing this game, and Andy's the first to give up. And as they're playing, everyone's kind of taunting him for getting knocked out so early. And while that's happening, the councilwoman walks in and startles everybody. And at first she assumes that this is just some viral thing for social media, and mentions some police department that sang a song from Hamilton. And they kind of clue her in oh, that's not what we're doing. But on paper to walk in, that's a very logical thing for her to assume, seeing this absurd thing in front of her. And if I was the chief, you should just have gone with that.
Yes, you just say exactly. That's exactly what we're doing. And then sing a song from Hamilton.
At the time, the chief didn't know it was a big deal. Because remember, he's just one of the boys right now.
Have you guys seen Hamilton? I've never seen it.
Nope.
All right, so we're the only 5 people on Earth who haven't seen it.
We're the last 5, yeah.
I don't like plays.
I mean, I like plays and I like musicals. I could sing you a lot of songs for musicals.
Yeah, Grease
I
is
have
my jam.
no desire for Hamilton.
My musical love stops at Disney.
Yeah, wait a minute, Ferg. You love Disney. Every one of those
I
movies
didn't say
is a
I
musical.
hate musicals. I said I hate plays.
Well, would you see a play of a good movie from Disney? What about Aladdin with Steve? With Steve from Full House as Aladdin.
The closest I would go is Disney on Ice. That's like a play on ice.
I did see Reptar on Ice once, and that was pretty fun.
Reptar, gotta find the Reptar.
Hey, I'm just a dinosaur. I'm glad you knew where I was going with that.
Kids on the ice. What's a dinosaur to do when there's kids on the ice? Somebody call their mom.
Fuck, our broken TV childhood brains are really seeping out right now.
What I thought would be a short episode is proving to end up being one of our longest.
This one's got tangents in it I did not expect.
So when she finds out that they're not doing a viral video and they're just playing random games in the firehouse, she insists on talking to Terry real quick in his office. And he's hesitant to do that because he's still actively in the frostbite challenge. And eventually has to give up and pulls his arm out. And when they get into his office, she starts looking around and you just like see all these like different signs and posters like, what's the best way to make breakfast in the morning? Wake up your wife. And she's like, and then she turns her head again. And it's just like a poster of a girl in a bikini holding a fire hose, which I'll say in fairness to that one is an actual promotional poster for a company that sells fire hoses. So I guess that's fair because it was like sent to them, I assume.
I basically grew up in firehouses in the late 80s through the 90s, and that sort of stuff is for sure everywhere. It's calendars from hose companies or like helmet companies, like helmet protect or like get good head. You know what I mean? It's like some girl in a bikini, and you're like, wow, they're really going for it here.
Be careful saying that out loud. One of the other things that I noted was something that's probably fresh out of Gordo's house, the #1 farter mug.
I was going to say, how do I not have that?
I looked one up, Gordo. Even worse for my algorithm than what you usually send me. I found you one on Zazzle for $18.66, and you can either buy it now or you can wait for me to get you in the S1E1 holiday swap in 6 months.
The #1 farter.
The congresswoman's like face when she sees the mug, though, it really sold it.
She's
for
so
me.
disgusted.
Killed me.
Yeah.
She's just like-
I think I need to buy it and then bring it to work and have that be my work mug.
And if you do, make sure you take a picture of your workspace, and we'll put that on our Instagram.
Okay, will do.
So she informs Terry that the whole reason she's there is that state inspections are going to be coming up soon, and the city wants them to, all have improved scores because it might increase their budget. And Terry's like, well, that's not a problem. We always have good ratings. She's like, well, yeah, but the council has some concerns of them dropping due to you being a new chief and your reputation for fun and games, which obviously, her issues might have been heightened as she walked into the room and his arm is in a bucket of ice.
Which, if you remember, is very close to parallel with the Super Troopers plot. Like, the whole thing about Super Troopers is them, I mean, they goof around too much, they're not getting their quotas.
Yeah, lots of shenanigans.
And the local PD might take over for the stadies.
I don't think it's coincidence that they went from like police to fire to kind of do a similar tone, because that's
just different enough.
They can do a lot of very similar humor, in doing this kind of a show. And then Joe, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together, but the idea of them being located somewhere that's generally wet, it's probably by design and very smart.
And so they're bored, so they can do all this crazy stuff all day.
Did they ever outwardly say that that's why they're located there, or is that just
No.
did you draw that conclusion?
No, if you look up the show, it mentions that like they're in Tacoma, which is one of the wettest cities. So like it's I think it's part of their probably advertising when they, or like the pitches they threw out there when they first started. But I don't think they don't mention it in this episode at least.
She's telling him like, listen, I understand like there's time for fun and games, and I'm no stranger to Thirsty Thursdays. Tells him though other people on the council are not in favor of your promotion, and it's time to stop being one of the boys essentially and start being the boss. And I was I wonder if she's like being truthful that it's other people and not her, but she's like, because she's trying to in trying to tell him to not be one of the boys and be the boss, she's trying to buddy up with him as she's being the boss. It's kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Well, it's a different set of buddies.
Right, but she's not being like, in her time of needing to reprimand someone, she's still trying to take it down to a friendly level to kind of ease the blow of the information.
True.
And the scene ends with the phone ringing and he's like dead arm trying to pick it up. Like,
I fucking died at this. I didn't think I would. It started and I was like, that's kind of a funny idea. And by the end of it, I was fucking laughing so hard.
I just got mad. I was like, use your other hand.
Yeah.
There's also that he has more than
It's
one
dumb
hand.
physical comedy, but yeah, it's funny.
They cut to it. What I like about this too, though, is like they always push what they're doing and call it back, right? So like even in the next scene, we get another frozen ice dead arm thing. Yeah, that's so fucking stupidly funny. Like, just keep this shit going. I can't fucking handle how funny I think that sort of stupid comedy is.
Yeah, because we cut to them heading back to kind of join the population again, and they're still doing the Frostbite Challenge, only it's down to Eddie and another guy, Granny. She's like, hey guys, we got an inspection coming up, like, we gotta wrap all this up, no more tournament, and Terry's right behind her, like, yeah guys, enough's enough, like, we have to cancel everything, it's time to get ready for this inspection. she leaves because she's off to do whatever else in life. And as soon as she's gone, they just assume that he's saying that just to appease her while she's there. And it's like, okay, good, now we can get back to the games. And he's like, no, I'm serious. Like, we need to do the inspection and get everything ready. So he flipped pretty quick. He took all that to heart. I think, it's usually tough to stop being the buddy, but he made that quick pivot.
This is also very Farva-like, too, though, that he's the one being the overly stick-to-the-rules guy around the guys making all the pranks, right? Like, it's pretty much the same character as Super Troopers.
Just less crass.
Yeah, just less crass.
But I think, like, what you find out, too, is as much as this crew plays around, it's a very, like, well-run department. Because when Terry's trying to say, like, we need to do this, this, and this, everything's already been done. Like, they get all their shit done to start the day, and then they play around in their downtime.
Did they, though, or are we just assuming that they are?
I think they did.
They did.
Because Terry stated before that they always get good scores on these, so I just think they get their stuff done, and then as soon as they're done, playtime is playtime.
Fire departments, at least in my experience, are very much like a military organization, right? There's like a hierarchy, and there are specific tasks that are done every day. And there's a scene in this episode later where you see them, and they're standing by a board that has it outlined for what gets done every single day. Like Monday is windows, Tuesdays are floors, Thursdays or whatever, right? Like that's how I've always known it to be. So the idea that all this stuff is done, I don't think that's a far stretch. Also, some of those things like, making sure the air tanks are filled and the hoses are proper and everything, like that's stuff that if there's a fire and it's not good, you could die, right? So like those are sort of tasks that they're gonna do because it's important to your safety on a job like that, right? Like you can like joke around about certain stuff, but the stuff that keeps you safe, you have to like, be on top of. It'd be like cops being like, it's Wednesday, change the armor and the bulletproof vest, and be like, oh, we forgot. Uh-oh. Like that's a bad day,
So now Terry's trying to get everyone to keep, end the game and, let's get going and get all this stuff together. Despite it sounding like they've already done everything. And as he heads off, Eddie kind of chases him down the hallway and he's like, hey, like, what's going on? And he's like, tells him everything that happened with the councilwoman and says, I need to stop being one of the guys and act like the chief. And he's like, well, you can be both. You can be fun and be the chief. And he's like, no, chiefs aren't fun and it's not playtime anymore. And heads off. Eddie is not happy with this. And the very next scene, you see him sneak into Terry's office and hide Shrimp in his desk chair.
It was Shrimp. I was watching on my phone, so I couldn't tell what he poured in the thing. So
I literally had to put it on my bigger monitor to make sure I could see what it was. Because when you see it a smaller thing, I thought it was like chips or something.
Yeah, I thought it was like nuts.
Yeah, it's like a bag of frozen shrimp.
But what a genius idea this is.
I was just going to say, what an amazing idea.
You guys remember in high school when people put a bunch of dead fish in the drop ceiling of the cafeteria?
Yeah, that was our junior year, right? It was the seniors that were
I think it was the senior prank in our junior year, yeah. And accurate to this episode's description, it was not a good smell. But also we got to see the poor janitor with his feet dangling out of the drop ceiling. He was like, oh, this poor fucking guy has to go get all these fish now. Like, you never think about those things in those scenarios as a kid?
When you're a kid, you never think about those things. My only thing with the shrimp prank was, although very funny and can be effective, I did feel like when we see this episode, the pungent odor of shrimp would not have taken over the room as fast as it does in the time span.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. But I think it's, suspended disbelief.
But also, yeah, I don't know how much time it is, but also it's a very wet place and it's clearly summer because they're always in t-shirts when they're outside. So humid, hot air.
It's also directly underneath his seat, and he is the number one farter, so he's just heating that shrimp up with
That's
his
true.
farts. And
Shrimp fart.
just farty cooked shrimp, and I'm sure it's disgusting.
I'm sure he wishes he didn't have the title now. Gordo, have you ever been in a situation like this before?
Farting on shrimp?
Yeah.
Very specific.
No.
The fact that he had to think about it is a little
Yeah, I do like
concerning.
that. I like that.
No, I thought about that time that YouTube video that Nick has of me.
He did puke milk and shrimp. Gordo did the milk challenge. We had like an epidemic of seeing who could chug a gallon of milk, and Gordo did it once, but had a bunch of shrimp scampi before he did it, so he just
Bad
dropped
idea.
shrimp when the milk came up.
Yeah, it's like shrimp soup.
Ugh.
I do love the harmlessness of being like, if you can eat these crackers and whistle, right? I remember one time a bunch of us did can you eat a bunch of nutmeg and swallow it without water, right? That's another tough one.
Yeah.
But the milk one is brutal because you know that everybody there is going to throw up milk. Like, that's gonna get very messy very quickly.
I only saw one person do it successfully, and it was our friend Doug. And he eventually threw up, but he was the only person who got through the gallon without throwing up.
He held it down for a while. You got to give it to him.
I'll tell you this, on a much smaller scale, I was recently to breakfast with Ferg, and we sit down for breakfast, and Ferg sits at the table with 3 full glasses, 1 full glass of milk, 1 of orange juice, and 1 of water, and he must have drank all 3 of them in about a minute and a half.
That's such a weird stomach concoction.
The orange juice, I feel like the acid of that would curdle the milk.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It didn't.
He lived. He made it through. Vitamin D and vitamin C. You're probably better than all of us right now.
He said it was like making a little creamsicle in his stomach, and then he started dancing around.
You know what it was? Is I was really thirsty, so I got the water. But then I saw orange juice, and I go, ooh, I love orange juice. And then I needed the milk for big, strong bones.
The milk is probably smart too, though, because that might quell the acid reflux that the orange juice will give you as well.
Proof.
Yeah. Do you guys, when you drink orange juice, do you do pulp, no pulp, some pulp?
No pulp.
I had this
No pulp.
discussion recently, actually. I don't care personally. I like pulp, but I don't need it. I also don't have to have it. You know, like, it's whatever.
I don't care, like, particularly. I will say I've had lots of pulp, and it's unnecessary. It's, like, too much.
Yeah, lots of pulp
Yeah.
is a bit much.
I don't like any pulp.
This just makes me think of the funniest scene in the entirety of The Sopranos, where he yells at her for giving him too much pulp orange juice and yells that he likes some pulp only, and she throws the orange juice at his head, which I think is the most amazing marital argument to have ever. It's like, I prefer some pulp, you fucking got me the wrong orange juice.
The guys are all kind of hanging out, and they're talking about what they're going to do with this gift card. And it's kind of just like a way to get you away from the office real quick, because right after that, they cut right back into it. Now that Terry's back, in his seat, and he can smell that shrimp, but he has no idea where it's coming from. And he's like smelling his armpits and the trash bucket. And
I thought the scene was really funny, actually. Him trying to figure out the smell.
yeah, him sniffing like a dog, like
Yeah,
looking
it
all
was
around.
good.
Yeah.
He sniffs his own mustache.
Yeah, that's a good move.
And from there, we get to the next game. They're playing Jaws of Life Jenga, which I thought was actually very funny.
That's an amazing game.
I would love to actually play that. Have you ever played like a wedding or something where you play like human-sized Jenga?
I've
Yeah.
seen them at they're at a bunch of places nowadays.
I've
It's
seen
like
them at bars.
Yeah, it's fun to do because there's higher stakes to it, but adding like those are like lawn timbers, like landscaping timbers, and using a Jaws of Life. That's amazing. Yeah.
And Terry's like trying to shut this game down. And again, he's mentioning like a million things that need to get done for this inspection, but all of them are done. So he doesn't have like, a real reason to shut all this down. And he calls Eddie over to the other room so he can have a word with him. And he's like, I'm supposed to be putting a stop to this. He's like, no, you're supposed to be chiefly. And you are. And he's like, no, like, you're part of this problem. You need to follow orders. And this is when we find out like the relationship between the two, because Eddie's like, hey, I've been ragging on you for 25 years and you're married to my sister. It's like, I can't just take orders from you now. It's weird.
This is a nice quick little piece of exposition.
Yeah, it was a good way to kind of sneak in that backstory. So, like why the two of them are probably tight more so than with like the rest of the group. And like, yeah, I mean, it's just that he's just pleading with Eddie to calm down and try to help him out here because, hey, I'm basically like, my job is in jeopardy. Will you please just calm down for a minute so I don't get in trouble? And he's kind of like, no, we like to have fun around here.
Again, that's more Super Troopers stuff where they can't shut it off even when they're in danger of being like closed down.
Yeah.
And Terry's like trying to low-key ask him if he's been pulling any pranks lately, but he doesn't want to sell the prank that's going on right now. So he doesn't want to say anything about the shrimp situation. He's just trying to, like, in general, ask him if he's been playing any pranks.
Such a big part of pranks, right, is not selling it, because not selling it is key to, not letting that person get the upper hand on you.
And Eddie's trying to get it out of him. He's like, any particular pranks? Like, anything you want to talk about? He's like, nope, just pranks in general.
Now, this scene, they come in and he does a full cleaning of the office and they're taking everything apart. And I immediately thought of The Office.
The Office. Yeah.
With this scene
Yep.
plus his mug, which is like the #1 boss mug, and he's the #1 farter boss. I was like, they're either clearly referencing The Office or they like it seeped into their brain so much by osmosis they didn't realize that they were like clearly lifting a little
Yeah.
from it.
I like that he didn't realize that when you take everything out of the room, the smell disappears.
And you put it back. Yeah.
You put
right.
it all back, it's going to come back. Like, bring in an item at a time and then see when the smell comes back. But he just resets up the whole room and then smells it again and doesn't realize what's wrong.
Oh, see, I thought that he had the whole room cleaned out.
He did, but he, like, when he brought everything in, like, he should have been checking the items.
He brought his chair in last was the problem. So he thought he was all set, and then the last thing he brings in is the stinky thing, which he should have realized was everything was fine until he brought the chair in.
Because the hallway should have smelt like shrimp as well.
Yeah, that smell would have carried out.
From the reaction we get when people walk into that room later in the office episode, rather, you should probably notice if it's in the hallway too.
And he's just standing there, like, sniffing around like a doggy and just goes like, what the fuck? And he storms off. And then we see, like, that exterior shot of the firehouse again, and you just hear him screaming and the sound of an axe, like, slashing the walls. And it gets back to inside when Eddie walks into the office, and he's just like, oh my God, it smells worse.
Yeah, like when he turns around and goes, it's in the walls.
Yeah.
He's trying to cut it out of the walls. He thinks it's like a dead squirrel or something, I'm assuming, at this point.
I mean, it could be. If you didn't know, because you'd never think to look in your chair.
Obviously not look in the chair, but I would say a fishy smell is very different than other bad smell.
Have I told you guys about the dead fish smell that concerned me? I might have told this story before, but forgive me if I have. But this was years ago. I was still living at home, and I went to the bathroom, and I was like, wow, this smells even for this. Like, this smells terrible. And 3 days go by, and every time I went to the bathroom, it smelled like that, but worse. And I'm starting to get concerned. I'm a bit of a hypochondriac, and I'm like, even for shit, this smells bad. Like, it doesn't smell like shit. It's gross.
Even for shit, this smells bad. It's so funny.
And so, like, little did I know that my brother had a fish tank at the time, and one of his catfish had died, and he threw it in the fucking trash in the bathroom and never took it out. So I'm just sitting there huffing dead fish while I'm in the bathroom. And it was a huge relief when I found out, because I thought I was rotting on the inside for some reason.
Flushing a dead fish is like a time-honored tradition.
Well, I don't think a catfish is going to go down the toilet.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He meant to take it out, but it's a big catfish are kind of big, even
Yeah,
like
they're
the
big.
small fish tank one. So I don't think he wanted to risk it, and he meant to just throw out the trash and just never did it. And I was like, dude, I almost went to the hospital because of your dead fish. Like, it's disgusting.
That's funny.
So now Eddie tells Terry to follow him because he wants to show him something. And we cut over to the other three guys who are all in another room chugging gallons of water. And while they're doing all this chugging, Brandy's getting a text from his girl wrapped in only alpaca fur, which I was like, oh, so they already have a bunch of alpaca fur on hand?
Yeah, apparently everybody's very in tune with the alpaca clothing.
Yeah, this is a post-alpaca world for her.
Yeah, there's been like a big runner throughout the episode too that he's trying to do it for his girl. And then Ike, who was brought up early, he's the one who was wearing the mask earlier in the alpaca incident. He's under the impression that they kill alpacas to get their fur, and he's very much against that. And that's been like the thing that's going on this whole episode with him, because he's trying to look it up, and there's no evidence that it's true, but they told him it, so now he just believes it.
I love how aloof this guy is.
Yeah.
He's just so detached.
And then the other two finally head to the room where the three of them are all drinking this water, and Terry instantly identifies what's going on. He's like, wait, you're playing the most pissed challenge.
Fucking dead. I play this game literally twice a night, usually around 2 a.m. and around 4 a.m. I like Austin Powers pee every night, at least 2 different times, and this really, really spoke to me.
And Eddie's trying to get him to join. He's like, listen, man, we're ready for the inspection. There's been no calls, and it's raining. Plus, you can't go back to the office because it's destroyed and smells like low tide. And he reminds them, you know, you've won the most pissed challenge every year for the last 20 years, and now there's alpaca on the line.
I love that yearly they've played this game
For
yearly.
20 years, they've been playing the most piss challenge, but it's only like a once a year annual event. They're all chanting for him to like join in, chief, 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 chief. And it finally builds enough and he caves in. And the next shot, you see everyone just hunched over a table and you can hear that everyone's peeing into like empty jugs. And they let this scene go for like a while of them just all standing there pissing.
The sound designer of this episode deserves a fucking Emmy for how great this scene plays out audibly.
And as they're going on, the councilwoman enters the station because of course, but first heads to Terry's office where she nearly vomits from the smell. And we cut back to the guys who are all finishing up and picking up their gallons, now with piss in them, to reveal how they did. When Ike picks up his, it's like blue. He's like, I really need to lay off the supplements.
Yeah.
Which reminded me of, was it Role Models? They're drinking that Minotaur energy drink.
Minotaur.
And he's like, it looks like Shrek's piss.
Have you guys ever done this before? Have you ever had like too many energy drinks and your pee turns like neon?
Yep.
Well, that's just from being dehydrated, yeah.
No. If you drink like so when I was in Red Invasion, like we used to do these like, either weekends or whatever. And back then when you're young, you're like stay awake the whole time. Plus you're driving at night, right? So we used to drink like Rockstar energy drink after Rockstar energy drink after Rockstar energy drink. And it's not the dehydrated, just yellow pee. It's legitimately neon.
Orange,
if you drink
yeah.
too many of those. It's awful for you.
Jay's crushed his fair share of energy drinks.
Yeah, I've been energy drink free for about 2 years and it kills me because I love them so much. But I was consuming way too much caffeine and I kind of needed to put a stop to that before my heart stopped working. So I've been off of them for so long and I've always enjoyed, like I'm a big beer freak and I like to try all different beers and I do the same with energy drinks when like all these different companies come out with different flavors. I always go out of my way to try all of them. So being out of the game as long as I've been has been like torture for me, but it's for the betterment of the long term, so I'm trying to stay away.
Did you buy any of that caffeine shampoo they keep pitching on TV?
No. What?
Have you guys seen this?
No, I haven't seen that.
I don't know if it's because,
Nope.
again, Gordo, if anybody saw it, maybe it's you, because I see the commercial on Sling all the time. But there's this commercial, and it's like the audio of like a race car going by. It's like, and it's like, Alpecin, Germany's #1 caffeinated shampoo, finally made it to America. Every time we see it, we're like, who the fuck wants caffeine shampoo? What does that do? Does it like seep into your pores? Like, what if you shower at night before bed? That seems like a real bad idea. I don't understand anything about it.
That's what your body needs. Caffeine directly to your brain.
Yeah. Like, just drink a Jolt soda and get it over with. This is outrageous.
Also, for people listening, to go back a bit, if you were confused, Joe mentioned when he was in Red Invasion, he doesn't mean he was in the Soviet Army.
Oh, sorry.
So it was a band that he used to be in. You can look him up on Spotify, actually. I believe it's still there.
I believe it's the one band of mine that is on Spotify. Back when I was young and hot.
Yeah. So now the only one who hasn't revealed their gallon of piss, or they're 5-gallon jugs, they're like the water cooler ones, is the chief who's still going. And he's like, I'm like a camel. This is like milking a camel.
The start stopping here,
Yeah.
I kind of had to take a moment where I was like, I make fun of them so much for all of the poop and fart humor that I don't think is funny at all. And there are tears in my eyes while Farva starts peeing in this scene. It is one of the funniest things I've ever
We've gone
watched.
over before. We're just front guys.
That's true. Yeah, we're front guys. Sorry. You guys like it the other way.
And they're all now they're chanting again, Chief has the most piss. Chief has the most piss. And as that's happening, the councilwoman finally finds them. And she's just in like absolute horror. And he doesn't know that she's right behind. And he's like, it's like I'm spelunking in an underground cave of urine.
Amazing.
And, obviously he then notices her and she's telling him how he needs to act more like the chief. And it's just awkward. As she's trying to reprimand him, he can't stop peeing. So she keeps getting cut off by the sound of him peeing.
They went like too many on this one, but like in a good way. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think they were gonna
Yes.
keep going. She just kept getting cut off by his stream, and it kept going. It was really good.
And when he finally finishes and lifts that jug, and it's like I said, a 5-gallon like water cooler jug. It's about halfway full. So we're to believe that this man just peed about 2.5 gallons worth at once.
My only issue with this is if they had been drinking that much water, their pee wouldn't have been yellow.
Thank you. I wrote that down too.
Right.
I was like, they all
Yeah.
just had to chug water to do this, and they all have like neon yellow pee.
I would say for the visual gag, if it was all like super clear, it wouldn't look quite right. Like, so for TV, you kind of have to.
Do any of you use that as a gauge? Like, if my pee is not like completely clear, I'm freaked out and I start drinking I drink water all day long. So
It's weird because yes and no. So I try to hydrate a lot, but also there are other things that can change. Like, there's a weird conversation. So sorry for you that those of you who are listening that don't like pee talk, just skip forward another minute or so. But like there's other factors, right? So like I'm off and on diets at all times, and losing weight and stuff can affect your urine color. So there's just so many different things that I can't just get worried that I'm dehydrated, because I know I drink plenty, so I try to think of other reasons the color could be different.
It took me so long when I was younger to figure out that the darker the pee means that you were dehydrated. I remember one time I felt awful and my piss was like rust colored.
Ugh.
oh Jesus.
You're breaching kidney failure there.
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, ugh. And I drank water and I was like, man, I feel better. So now I make sure that I drink water all the time. And I use that as a gauge.
Thanks, Dr. Gordon.
I oftentimes think of this girl I used to work with, whose name I won't say.
Dr.
but
Eality.
She
Dr.
hated water because she said it tasted bad, so she refused to drink it. So she only drank Diet Coke and then a concoction of coffee in the morning that she referred to as hummingbird nectar.
Oh, okay.
The color of khaki pants. It's like the
Ew.
most unhealthy, so much milk and sugar in it.
Oh yeah, the extra.
Yeah, and I often wonder, I'm like, I wonder if that girl's alive, because that was like 15 years ago, and she was like, ew, water doesn't taste like anything. You just like chug a Diet Coke or whatever, and I'm like, you're like 22, you can probably get away with this now, but you have to change something to keep going.
Well, I'll tell you, my mom doesn't like drinking water, and she refers to it as plain water. So like she'll drink like Crystal Light and stuff, and she's like, oh, I have a water. It's like, no, that's not water anymore. It is like, it's not that bad for you if you're drinking Crystal Light all day, but there's water, which is usually like peach tea flavored, and then there's plain water, which is what you get out of the fridge or sink.
I'll tell you what, with water though, I don't like, and I know this is where me and Joe will butt heads, I do not like super cold water.
I love super cold water.
I much prefer like close to a room temperature water.
That's what my brother does, and I
Ew.
hate it, because he'll be like, oh, do you want a water? And then he pulls a bottled water that's just like sitting on the floor, and I'm like, come on.
If I'm doing
That's not refreshing.
something like active outside in the heat or whatever, then yeah, give me a cold water. I'm cool with that. But like right here now, like I don't want an ice cold water.
I love it.
It's too much.
We're at the part of the year now where I like put the ice maker on our fridge to the test, because I'm here working all day long and it's so hot. And every time I go down, I have that giant like aluminum water bottle. I have to fill it with water and then fill it with ice. And then by like 6 p.m., it's like, please give me a break. I can make like 1 cube an hour at this point.
And everyone who's been listening knows that Ferg has an ice machine on at all times, inches away from his microphone.
No, Nick and I do a good job of getting rid of the ice machine.
And it hasn't gone off once today.
And I like when she's talking to him and she says, I find you with your men cheering you on as you pee for them.
He's doing it for them.
Like it's a
Yeah,
performance. Come here, everyone. Show you my urine.
I mean, to be fair, it's a lot of pee. I'd pay $1 to watch that.
2.5 gallons is impressive.
It's very impressive.
That actually is impressive.
The one thing that gets him out of this moment, luckily, is the alarm goes off and they have a call. And we find out that there's a child stuck in a well. And when they head over to the scene, there's a bunch of people there. I don't know if just nosy people, just because they see something's going on.
Probably heard the mother screaming and
There's a nervous mom, and she's telling them how he's been down there for hours and he's a very fragile kid. And all he had to eat today was oat milk and flaxseed.
Poor fucking kid.
Flaxseed's the worst.
Yeah, flaxseed's not good.
His allergist thinks that he might be protein prejudiced.
Yeah, protein prejudice.
I don't know what that is.
Good alliteration, though.
Yeah. And Terry has one of the guys take them onto the parking lot so they can take care of the situation. And you get the shot of them all looking down into the well. And we can't see the kid during all this. It's just kind of like you just see the black hole. And you hear, is she gone? Is my mom gone? And when he finds out that she is, goes, Good, I'm sick of that a-hole.
This kid is like a weird little hilarious psycho.
Yeah.
And I looked up his IMDb and he's in 4 more episodes of
Yeah,
this
he's
show.
a reoccurring character.
That makes me very happy.
And they're like, don't talk about your mom like that. It's like, have you ever ate flaxseed? And like, lets him know like that he doesn't even want to come out. He just like wants to hang down there on his iPad and make crap for his YouTube channel.
It's like the saddest thing that's just like kids now.
Yeah,
Like, I create content, be like, what the fuck?
it really is. That's just what kids are now.
I'm sorry though, but how did he get down there? That was a really deep pipe. Did he just throw himself down?
Yeah.
Clearly he didn't, right? And it's narrow, so if you're gonna jump down, you either have to go like head first or legs first.
I imagine that he probably like went
Shimmied.
in and like shimmied his way down, and he just couldn't shimmy his way back up.
But he never even tried to get back
He
up.
doesn't want to shimmy up.
Because, yeah, they send the rope down and he starts shooting at him with BB guns. That's when Eddie's like, this kid is an asshole.
I love that they don't. This is the kind of thing you don't think about, but when you're in a job where you have to like help people, like if you're like a firefighter or a paramedic, there's gonna be times where you're like, I don't want to help this asshole.
Oh yeah, probably more times than not. Yeah.
Yeah, God bless them who actually do it, because I just tell you to go
Yeah, I
fuck
couldn't
off.
do it. I'll tell you that.
Like,
right
for
now.
every person you're trying to help because they're in danger or threatened and you like feel like you need and want to help them and you're doing something good, there's another person who's like, go fuck yourself, get away from me.
Yeah.
And how old is this kid? Like 10-ish? And he's like down there vaping?
Yeah, he vapes.
Yeah.
That was like one of those bargaining tools too. When I almost said Farva.
Oh, it's hard not to.
Yeah,
I wouldn't fault you.
when the chief's trying to get him out, he's like, hey, you know, if you let us get you out of there, like, I'll let you vape in the fire truck and record it for your YouTube channel. And the kid's like, I want $50 too, because he wants to buy the Guardians of Terrory season pass. Is that a real game or is that a made-up
No.
game for the show? All right.
It's made
No.
up for the show.
He says for $50 you can get the elf queen to take off her royal panties.
Also, 2 episodes in a row with children being bribed.
Yeah.
It's I don't game much. Are there games that have weird shit like that in them?
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Oh, I imagine that's a big market.
But that's gonna be like PC games, right? Like you're not gonna be able to get something for your Xbox where someone's
Not
taking their panties
necessarily,
off.
but yeah.
I mean, there's nudity in games like God of War and shit, but it's not like, oh, it's $50. Take off your panties, Aphrodite. Like,
Yeah.
Aphrodite. She is mighty. But like, I thought it was gonna end at like when we used to play like I don't know, when I stopped playing video games was around like Grand Theft Auto Vice City, right? I loved that game or whatever, but like you'd go with a sex worker into the car and the car would go like
Yeah, it would just shake.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I'm just having sex with the sex worker, that rules. But like I didn't. If somebody was like, for $500 more, do you want to see her nipple? I'd be like, no, I don't need to see that. Why?
Maybe when you were 10 though.
Maybe at 10. Well, at 10 then, though? No, because, see, I don't understand this either, because that kid has an iPad, which means he has a path to all of the pornography and all of the nudity in the world that he could ever want to look at.
he has an overprotective mother, so she might have a content blocker.
Look, we come from a time when you were hoping to find woods porn, where you would sneak your hand into the porno room of the video store to try to pull out one of the little leaflets because it might have had a small picture of somebody fucking with their tits out giving head on it. That's the world we lived in now. These kids now, they can bypass it. I'm sure they can do it. They can VPN, they can go to private browser, or they have some friend who's smart enough to know. This kid doesn't need a video game.
Got the overprotective mother. He had to jump down a giant pipe to get away from her. So you know she would block all that content on his
Well, she's not
iPad.
blocking his vape. I imagine he's smart enough to get around whatever block is on his iPad to look at pornography.
To be fair, like with vaping, like when we were younger, we smoked. Like cigarettes have a very distinct smell. If you're vaping, you just smell like banana nut cream or like whatever the hell you.
You
Oh.
smell like nut cream.
Yeah, you just want to say nut cream, I think.
That's what I have. Banana nut cream pie or whatever the fuck it is. Like,
You're not making it better.
Does it have kind of like a chlorine type smell to it?
no, it's got kind of like a creamy smell to it.
In the winter, Gordo was using Snowball, but he thought that in this weather it wasn't good enough.
No, hold on.
We can't smell it through the monitor.
Yeah, was he gonna like blow it into the monitor?
Yeah, that's banana cream pie.
Banana cream
Secret
pie,
ingredient,
yeah.
cum.
Not banana nut pie or banana. You said banana nut cream.
Yeah, well, it's all banana nuts and shit like
There's
that.
no
like
nuts though.
Banana cream pie is a thing. Banana nut cream or whatever is a very different thing.
you don't know. I mean, sometimes it's like toasted nut, buttered nut or whatever the fuck it is. Like,
Well, I just vape cereal.
I also have a watermelon one, like the watermelon candies. That one's really good too.
I'm 1,000 years old and I vape cigarette flavor because I can't walk around blowing nut cream all over the place. I just my body, my brain, my ego won't allow me to do it.
I quit a while ago, but I was once a vapist, and when I did, I was kind of all over the place. I kind of like to. I would have two in my pocket a lot, so I would kind of have like a desserty one and a fruity one to kind of switch it up throughout the day, because your mouth will get like adjusted to a single flavor if you do it for too long. Which is, I'm amazed that Ferg still tastes vape because he's been like vaping the same shit for a decade at this point.
I always have two as well. I have one with cannoli and one with fruit, like Fruity Pebbles cereal.
But you have one with cannoli?
Yeah, that was like
Yeah.
a popular one.
Cannoli?
It's called cannoli B1.
I know. Cannoli Joe is impressed. He's like, wait a minute. I didn't know cannoli was on the table here.
Maybe I'll change over. Cannoli Joe must get cannoli.
He walks into the store like, can I help you, sir? It's like, you already know.
Hello, I'm here for my cannoli,
He
please.
has a top hat and monocle on for some reason.
But yeah, no, and if you guys want to hear more of our vape talk, we have a separate vape podcast you guys can listen to.
How insufferable is the idea of a vape podcast? And I'm saying that, I'm sure there are plenty that make a fuck ton of money.
Yeah.
It's so aggravating.
So to get back into this though, as a sign of good faith, they throw $25 down the well. So they he knows that there's money coming his way, and he's told you'll get the other $25 when you get out and hug your mom.
Now, Granny says because of all the rain, the pipe's gonna fill up shortly. Wouldn't that just solve the problem and push him right to the top?
Right, this is a Willy Wonka issue.
If it goes up and he's like not right at that hole, maybe you get trapped under. Probably something you don't want to risk regardless.
Yeah, I imagine if you're not like where it goes vertical, you'd have a problem.
I like when they throw the rope down and they're like, all right, we're throwing down the rope. Just make sure you put it around it. He's like, yeah, I get it, dickhead. He's like, I hate this kid.
Yeah, I get it, dickhead.
And then when they pull him out, he just immediately runs and kicks Andy in the dick. And he's like, going viral, bitches.
The fur of it too is like he's a kid walking off. Like, I love that so much. Like, it's not supposed to hurt.
And they bring him over to his mom, and that's when you see her with the councilwoman both being interviewed like on the local news. And when they bring her son, she gives him like this big hug and tells him like they're gonna go straight to wholesome foods, and you can pick out any soy pop flavor that you want. And he just looks over at Terry and gives him the finger.
This kid is by far the best part of the show, I think.
Never gets his other 25.
And like you cut to like a moment or two later, and the councilwoman's talking to Terry. And during that, like each member of the department keeps walking up to him and being like, oh, like, thank you so much. Like, it's an honor to work with you, sir. Like, oh, got everything ready just as you asked. And typically in this episode, you would think that they're doing it to be sarcastic, but here it looks like they're genuinely just trying to make him look good for the councilwoman.
Yeah.
And the councilwoman's like, saving a kid is really, it's going to get you a lot of goodwill. She tells Terry, like, why don't you go talk to the news? He's like, oh, you know what? Why don't you do it since you're so good at it? And kind of pushes her towards the camera and walks off with Eddie again. And Eddie immediately is just trying to get him to restart this tournament. Like, he really wants to finish it. He's like, no chance. And tells him, like, that's an order. And he's like, it's just the two of us here. You want to be the fun guy. He's like, I'm not going to be the fun guy until I find out what happened in my office. He's like, you still wouldn't know anything about that, would you? He's like, nope. But if, let me know how that goes, okay? And we cut back to the station where it's pouring again. Because this whole well scene, it wasn't raining.
They only have one rain machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all kind of sitting there again, just talking about finishing the tournament so someone can get that gift card. And once again, they're kind of all talking about different things they'd want to do with it. And Ike stops the conversation by saying that he already returned it to the old lady and says they'll no longer be trafficking in her bloodstained items. And they're pissed now because he just gave away a $500 gift card.
Good, it's their fault. That's karma.
That is karma. Like,
Yeah.
they did this to themselves.
He
Yep.
believed something that they told him, but yeah, they finally come clean and like, they don't kill alpacas for their fur. They shave them. It grows back. And he looks super nervous and walks off, and then he shows back up like a minute later with an alpaca that he stole from there, and he's like, I have to go make a return.
I was gonna say, and as he walks out, it gets sunny again. If you notice, like when he leaves
I
the
didn't notice
station,
that. No.
No, they were getting rained on.
Well, actually, because it is at this point when Terry walks back and he figured out what was wrong
He has
with
the
his
chair.
office, and he has the chair with him, and he goes and he throws it outside into the dumpster. And I don't think it was raining when he threw it in there.
I have a major problem with this part as someone who's seen the rest of the show because it's like a major continuity thing. There's a whole episode dedicated to he has this chair that he's obsessed with, and it's the only chair he'll sit in. And everyone's trying to get him to replace it and get a new chair, a new comfortable one. He will not get rid of this chair. It's like 20 years old, and this just completely like erases all that. Well, all that erases this.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Classic pilot shit, though, right? Where like,
Yeah.
the pilot's over and they're like, that happened just so you saw everything, and we'll wipe the slate clean now.
And when Terry throws that chair out, he informs Eddie that, you're never going to get me again. Which, at that point, Eddie's like, okay, challenge accepted. We see Terry back in his office soon after, and once again, can smell something. And he yells immediately for Eddie to come in. And he's like, okay, I give up, uncle. And he just goes, curtain rod. He's like, you sneaky bastard. And then the endless amount of shrimp that comes out of
So
the curtain
much
rod.
comes out.
It's just a regular curtain rod that's like, I don't know, maybe about 4 feet tops, like probably like 3 feet. And like, it's just at an angle, and you just see like enough to fill like a small pool just falling out of this thing.
This is a good shot.
Yeah, they're feeding it from the other, off the camera. Yeah, they're feeding it over. And I thought that was a pretty good way to button up that episode. It ties everything in. You get that nice little funny visual gag, and leave on a kind of high note. So that was the conclusion of the episode. So I don't know. I mean, again, Ferg's the only one who's actually watched the whole show. It's pretty new to the rest of us. I was looking for some information on like the show and kind of fun facts and stuff, and there wasn't a lot in where I was looking. I don't know if any of you guys saw much.
Not a ton of stuff out there about it, yeah.
There's like one main character missing from this I almost said podcast, from this pilot, and it's I think her name's Lucy. I forget actually, but it's
I was gonna say there is a girl in the intro.
Yeah, like in the team.
Yeah, I meant to bring that up too.
she's Farver's daughter. Sorry, I called him Farver. Well, she's the chief's daughter, Eddie's niece, and she's forced to be on that because they need a female on the thing, and she's been going to the academy or whatever they do.
That makes sense to me too, because I feel like when there's that scene where he's coercing the kid to come out of the well by like bribing and everything, you're like, he's clearly a parent. Like, this is clearly like I know how to handle kids move. And you do see his wedding ring, so I think that's just like you assume he's a family guy or whatever. I will say though, I don't consider any of these guys, I didn't like how they were that much older than us, and it's a weird thing because when the first Broken Lizard movie came out, like we were probably in high school or whatever, and they're like, oh, he's been on the force, we do this every year for 20 years, and you're like, oh wait, like that sort of stuff always like jolts me a little, where you're like, how old are they, how old are we, where did time go?
Yeah.
when we first discussed doing this show, I thought going into it that this was the people who did Reno 911 that did a fire department show. I wasn't expecting the Broken Lizard guys. So, I don't know. May not be something interesting to add, but, I thought I'd throw that out there.
I think that lends to a little bit too, though, that like this doesn't have the best reach, which I think is a shame because it's really great. That like you didn't, like a lot of us hadn't seen it. Yeah. I was vaguely familiar with it, but I knew a little bit about it. You thought it was different creators altogether. And I think it's a really great show. At least this episode I thought was. And maybe we can help a few people who haven't seen it to try it out, because that would be a really cool thing, because I think it's very much worth a shot.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be one of those shows that's going to end up somewhere else after the show concludes, and it's going to find new life like after death,
Like I said, it's on HBO Max, so
That's helpful. I think that's really good. The HBO Max is now, or Max or whatever, is so.
And it's not canceled, right? It's still actively going.
4th season is coming out, I think. Yeah.
I think the 4th season got picked up in 2021, and there hasn't been much word about it since. But I think Joe's right; it's supposed to come out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what the future of that holds, and hopefully, again, with something like HBO Max or just Max, it catches more eyes. But with all that being said, we might as well round this out, and it's time for the green light or cancel. I'll go in the order I'm seeing you in. Nick, starting with you.
Yeah, this show is I will say this. I liked the show and I'm green lighting it. I would say it's not very groundbreaking comedically. There's some low-hanging fruit that they go after, but that doesn't mean it's bad. And I have faith in them. I just it's just a fun workplace comedy, and it's seasoned with the Broken Lizard comedy too. So if you're a fan of these guys prior to this show, then I think you're going to enjoy that aspect of it too. And I know that I want to see more of that too. I have faith that they will continue to be funny in all the right ways. So I enjoyed the pilot. It definitely is intriguing enough for me to want to come back, and it's a pretty easy green light for me.
Gordo.
Yeah, I'm not gonna rock the boat or anything on this one. It was funny. Like I said, I thought it was the Reno 911 people, but very pleasant. I was like, oh, cool, the Super Trooper guys, awesome. And it felt more like a short movie than it did a television show. I don't know. When there's no laugh track, it kind of lends it more to be cinematic in my eyes than when it doesn't have a laugh track. Maybe it's just the way my brain works, but either way, it worked, and I thought it was funny. I think that there's enough there that I think it's going to get funnier as you get to know these characters more and more. And they didn't even really scrape the surface. They laid a good foundation. It's a green light from Gordo.
Berg.
When I first watched this show, I actually didn't enjoy this pilot, and it's the reason why I didn't pick this show yet, is because I thought it would get canceled. Upon the second watch, a year later, I really enjoyed the pilot this time around, which is I couldn't even tell you why. So it's definitely not soft. I always liked their sense of humor, and every single Broken Lizard movie I enjoyed. Even that weird college one that we rented. That I haven't seen the new one, which is that Quasi show. When there were a movie, I don't even know. It's the Quasimodo Hunchback of Notre Dame when they are all done. But we're talking about this show, so sorry. Yeah, easy green light.
Joe.
Yeah, a few things that have been said here I totally agree with. I like Nick saying it's a quirky workplace comedy, right? And the reason I like this the most, I think, is that it's quirky workplace firefighter comedy, which they don't typically get funny firefighter stuff. You get super serious stuff. You get Firestorm or Backdraft or Rescue Me, where there might be some jokes involved, but it's like pretty heavy and weighty. There isn't like a Police Academy-esque fire department franchise, or nothing's really like that. That's what this feels like to me. It's like Police Academy 2, their first assignment as firefighters, which I thought was pretty fucking awesome. And I laughed a lot at this. I think that obviously the liking of all the Broken Lizard guys helps us. If I see a cop, if my wife or I see a cop anywhere doing anything, or it's mentioned, like, oh, there's a cop in front of the house, first immediate response is, oh, well, don't spit in his burger. Like, I've been saying that for like the entirety of our relationship. So I have a huge love for these dudes. Yeah, this was a super fun watch. I'm so glad this is on the Max, because now I'm gonna watch all of it. So green light for me.
Also, it gets way better.
Yeah, so I actually forgot to mention this at the top of the episode when I was asking all of you if you've seen the show. A while back, I was like, oh, I remember the show, and I went to watch it, and I watched just this episode. And I've said this a million times, very ironically, for a guy who hosts a show about TV sitcoms, I don't watch a lot of television. And although my intention was to keep watching it, I just didn't. Now, that being said, I did want to continue with it. And for that reason, again, covering this episode now, it's a green light for me. I think there's a lot of funny writing. I think their brand of humor is pretty locked in. You kind of know what you're getting into if you're already familiar with the Broken Lizard crew. I guess if you're not, maybe it's you gotta get adjusted to their speed, but I think it's very easy humor for anyone to follow up on. And I don't know, I just thought it was really fun. It's not over the top. In a way, there's like moments where it feels very toned down from what we're used to with them, with like a Super Troopers. Maybe a lot of that is because half the day is spent inside when it's raining, and that just kind of changes the vibe a little bit. Overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was very funny, and a lot of clever lines along the way. So a green light for me as well, which means congrats to Tacoma FD. You got a perfect 5 out of 5 from us. So you live on to see episode 2. That being said, I just want to remind everyone again, go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links everywhere to follow us. Rate, review, comment, do all that stuff. That helps us a lot. That helps other people find us. So we very much appreciate when you do that. Also, like I said earlier, find us S1E1 Pod, Twitter, Instagram. Hit us up. We put out tons of content. Just really fun to talk to you guys, learn the shows that you guys want to do. We try to tackle all of them when you guys give us good suggestions. And just kind of hearing everyone's stories is just really neat for us. So many different people listen to the show, and I guess we never really knew what our reach would be when we started this. So kind of knowing that we don't have a key demographic, and it seems that people of all different ages and different genders and from all over the world really listen is really, really cool. So keep hitting us up. It's really cool to talk to all of you. But with all that in mind, thanks again. Catch us again next week. We'll have another new episode for you. Thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best Durham fire hose poster.